Yes, good morning. We've waited 5 more minutes so that everyone can join. Thank you everyone for joining us. Welcome to the SPARCS Replication webinar, the first webinar within the SPARCS project. My name is Peter Bult. I'm from Fraunhofer IAO in Stuttgart, Germany, and I will guide you through today's webinar. I'm very excited and very thankful for Gobacon to support us. First, some technicalities. On the right side of your screen, there's probably a chat box or a box for questions. If there are any questions for the speakers during this webinar, please feel free to put them there so we can ask them during this webinar, and we will fulfill all your questions with good answers. Furthermore, I would like to guide you through our social media channels. SPARCS is on Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitter. So don't hesitate to give us a follow there and stay updated. This is the agenda for today. First, I will give a short introduction on SPARCS and what replication means for us. Then I'll go to my colleague Marilisa Padilla for an introduction into the Morgenstadt City Lab method. We'll have the experiences from Reykjavik by Magnus Yngvi Josefsson and Maia by Marta Morera and Luisa Serra. Then we will have a 10-minute break, and then our colleague Greta Shai from Bable will tell you something about the interoperable solution packages, the smart city training, and guiding project development in the Fellow Cities. And I'll close off with a little bit of information on coming workshops and webinars within SPARCS. So first, a short introduction about SPARCS. I will keep this short because we mainly want to talk about replication today. So if you want to know more about SPARCS, please go to the website sparks.info. There's a lot more information, a lot more videos in which our project is explained. So SPARCS is a Horizon 2020 Smart Cities and Communities project with 31 partners spread over all of Europe. And we are focusing on smart city development, positive energy districts, and a lot more. SPARCS stands for Sustainable Energy, Positive, and Zero Carbon Communities, which is quite a lot, but it's also very symbolic for the SPARCS project because a lot is happening. And our main kind of point is validate innovative solutions for planning, deploying, and rolling out integrated energy systems as an efficient mean for the urban transition into a citizen-centered zero-carbon ecosystem, enabling a high quality of life. Also a mouthful, so to say. In the center are our two lighthouse cities, Leipzig and Espoo. So they are implementing all these smart city solutions. Looking at a technical level, of course, looking at district cooling, the energy infrastructure, ICT solutions, blockchain solutions, renewable energy sources integration, electromobility, etc., etc. But a very important point within SPARCS is the user and the citizen center around that is at the center of this project. So Leipzig and Espoo both are very much focusing on how to put these citizens at the center of the transformation and giving them a voice within this transformation. These are our SPARCS actions. So we're looking at an efficient urban transformation of cities into carbon-free societies. Like I said, our lighthouse cities, Espoo and Leipzig, are really implementing this, and then our fellow cities are, of which we will hear a lot more later, are trying to learn and exchange knowledge and also on a later stage implement these kind of solutions. There's a wide-scale demonstration of innovative technologies, which I think speaks for itself. Roll out an extensive monitoring and evaluation program. So our colleagues from SUT5 and VERD did develop a monitoring framework and are working together with the cities to really implement this monitoring framework and see what kind of impact all these actions have on the livability of the cities. Then, like I said before, implement community engagement actions, which is very much at the center of this project. Community engagement proves to be very, very important for the cities. Now, this webinar is mostly about the replication of the demonstrated smart and integrated Lighthouse City solutions in the fellow cities. So how do we go from smart city solutions in a certain lighthouse context towards implementation into a complete different context, different geographical, different social, and different economic context in the fellow cities. Our colleagues from Fraunhofer IMW and SPI are working with all the cities to generate a very bold city vision for 2050. And from that, of course, there's coming next steps, and there's a very high ambition to reach these goals from the city vision. We're proactively cooperating with other smart cities and communities projects. There's a very big community of these projects working together on things like replication, on monitoring, on business models, and there's a lot of exchange and yeah, a lot of good things happening there. Then we support the development of competitive new services. CVSCO is also working on a lot of new business models, so to help cities implement these smart city solutions. And lastly, and of which this webinar, of course, is part, is actively and efficiently promote the SPARCS project and its outcomes. And for that, we, of course, also use the social media channels, the website, and presentations at different conferences. So replication proves to be a very important point in these kind of projects, because of course we're focusing on solutions in these lighthouse cities, but these solutions only bring that much in these cities, and it's of course very important to scale that up to different geographical contexts, different social context, and different economic context. So it's very important that we look at these developments in these lighthouse cities and make sure that these kind of actions can also be replicated in different cities. So therefore, we're aiming for tailored and effective smart city solutions towards positive energy districts. Well, like I said before, we have a very special focus on the fellow cities, Maia from Portugal, Kifissia from Greece, Lviv from Ukraine, Kladno from the Czech Republic, and Reykjavik from Iceland. And I think that is where I will stop with my introduction, and we will switch to Marilisa Padilla from Fraunhofer IAO and hear about how do we focus on these cities. And if everything goes correct, there's Marilisa.
Yes. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Yes. So thank you, Peter, for the introduction. And yes, I have the pleasure to show you and talk to you a bit more detailed now on how we actually do this replication process. I don't know if you see my screen now.
Yes, we do.
I don't.
Yes,
okay,
Marilisa.
because I am okay. I was only seeing myself. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so I will explain to you a bit more in detail what is the replication process that that we apply in SPARCS in our project. My name is Marilisa Padilla again, and we represent together with Peter the Fraunhofer Institute for Industrial Engineering located in Stuttgart. And just to give you an overview of what Fraunhofer is for the ones that don't know, so the Fraunhofer Society is the biggest institute for applied research in Europe. We have more than 70 institutes around the world, most of them, of course, in Germany. and each of them is specialized in a specific sector, specific topic, and we say we are from a team that it's more dedicated to creating and transforming cities. Most of the budget would come from projects that we do with the industries, with municipalities, also research institutes, and a third of the funding come from the central government. Our role in SPARCS. So among others, we are active in other activities in the project, of course, but we are leading the replication work package and support the fellow cities in developing their own sustainable roadmap for transforming them and also into this zero carbon communities. Again, just that you don't yeah, we have again this two Lighthouse Cities Expo in Leipzig that have the budget for implementing technologies for transforming them into energy positive districts, and we have our 5 fellow cities: Reykjavik, Maia, Kladno, Lviv, and Kifissia. And in a nutshell, the replication strategy in SPARCS has these 3 big kind of components. So on the first step, what we try to do and to analyze is what is the status quo of the cities, so where the cities are standing now, what are the opportunities that they present, the main challenges that they have, and based on that, we try to find solutions to help them to deal with these challenges using the opportunities that they have, developing this tailored project ideas. This is more the task that we at Fraunhofer are supporting them with. As a next step, we would have the idea of upscaling, developing a package and neutrally interoperable solution, procurement innovation, and then we also have the component of bringing cities together, promoting the exchange, learning from each other, learning from what's happening in the Lighthouse cities, but also from other best practices happening all around the world, and in this sense, promoting all the knowledge and training among them. So I will focus on the part from Fraunhofer, and my colleagues from Bable also will explain you the other parts. And so, yeah, how do we do it? How do we actually promote this replication in the first step? So we use the methodology that also Peter mentioned before from Morgenstadt that was developed within the Fraunhofer Institute, and we call them the City Labs, the Morgenstadt City Lab. And Morgenstadt, just in very few words, it's a Fraunhofer Innovation Network that was designed and created back in 2011. It was we brought together different Fraunhofer institutes, were more than 10, and we also had many municipalities on board and industries together that try to find solutions for how to deal with the challenges that come along with the urbanization. So there were a lot of processes and methods and designs that were created for dealing with these challenges. And one of them was this City Lab approach. So in our framework that was developed back then, so the idea is first to, as I said, analyze, understand the city, where is it standing now, what it is, and for that we use a set of indicators and so-called action fields that give us a broad idea of what is the status quo in terms of numbers. We also analyze strategic documents, and then based on that, we try to see what is the strategy that the city is having now to address these problems, and then we go to the process of solving them together. So what I'd always like to say that this approach is very useful and efficient, because we don't only focus, even though we are a very technology focused institute, we don't only focus in the technology by itself, so in the outer cell core that you would see here, but we think that it's important to to see what is the basis of that. So for installing a electric charger or something, it's not enough just to put the charger, but you have to see what are all the other components and what are the legislation behind, and how you could really, from a socioeconomic perspective, also make the whole solution, the whole technical solution work. So we try to see really all the levels and design the projects taking into account all of these different aspects. The expected result of a city lab is, on the one hand, this city profile highlighting the drivers, barriers, and opportunities in the city, but we also have detailed analysis of the specific sectors, in this case relevant to SPARC, which is more energy focused, of course. And then at the end, we produce a catalog of solution-oriented project outlines that would be then further developing a roadmap for implementation. We've implemented since 2011, when this methodologies has been developed, many of the city labs around the world. So here, just wanted to show you some examples, and these are the ones that we are now carrying out in the project of SPARCS. To get a better idea how it works, so it has different phases, and we have the preparation and understanding phase and the co-creation phase. I will get a bit more detail in the next slides on what each of the phases has been, but just to have an idea of the timeline, so we need to kind of 10 months for the first phase. Of course, it would be, it can always be adapted, and then there is 1 week on site that we carried out in the different cities. Of course, now in the case with Corona, we have been adapting it, and we do it virtually and in a more extended version, so like around 2 weeks. So in the preparatory phase, what we need to do is familiarize the researchers. So from us at the Fraunhofer side, together with the local team that we call, so the representatives of the city. So we both understand how it will work, and we need a team at the local, like a local focal point that would be our content part, and we could also coordinate all the activities. And it's important because they would want to wander from the beginning to the end in the process together with us. As I said, it's important that the methodology that was created back then, it's every time adapted depending on the project. Each project is very specific, it's very different. So we always start adapting this, the indicators and action fields and all the different components. And then we also do a preliminary analysis on the desktop research of the cities. As I said, the methodology, it's, when you analyze a city, you have a very different sectors and all possible sectors. But in the case of a specific project, you have to see which are the sectors that are relevant for you to analyze, and you focus on that, and those are the ones that you can adapt. So in the case, for example, for SPARCS, we chose the sectors that you see highlighted here, like mobility, energy, of course, economy, solid waste, resources, buildings, and environment, and others. So those are the ones that we selected. And then we go more to the, what is the understanding phase, to go in a bit more deep in the context. And then we do, once the indicators adapted, then the cities have the job to collect the data. Now it's hard for us to go to different departments and try to find the right information. So that's where the local team help us, giving us the right information, the right indicators, and filling in all the data that we then analyze and compare it with the benchmarks. Then we also do the analysis of all the strategic documents that the city provide us with. So they could be master plans, it could be strategic plan for the different sectors, mobility, energy, or agenda, sustainability agenda, or any document that could help us to understand the city better and find the really accurate solutions for the city. Then we produce with all that like a draft of what we call a city profile. So here's for you to have an idea how kind of the indicators work and how we do it. So there's some indicators, and you can see we get the city value, so the city provides us with a number, and then we compare it with international benchmarks and are on that like able to say what should be the focal points in certain city, what they should work on with, where are they really good at standing, what others will learn from them, and what could be the opportunities. The same we do with the action fields that are more like yes or no questions that give us more information about what is the city doing now to deal with these challenges, what kind of strategies they have in place. And so that we also analyze and create this kind of graphic that allow us to know to complement the indicators and fill the picture. So all this feeds into what I mentioned before that we call the city profile, together with the analysis of the strategic documents. So it's a very kind of concrete document that it's the introduction and also the justification for what we're doing after. So the implementation of specific projects that are addressing whatever was the outcomes of the analysis. So then we say this with what we call the co-creation phase. So we try to find solutions for the challenges that we found using the opportunities that are there. And for that, there are different tools that we use. So like this high-level expert interview, we do site visits to the interesting points in the city. So energy plants or waste treatment plants or bus stops, the train stations, and so that are relevant for that city and for the project. And then we go to this sessions for the development of the project ideas, and at the end we try to bring all the people together to discuss, confirm the ideas, and bring them a bit more towards the implementation. So this is the part that we normally do on site, that we really go to the city and interact directly with the city representatives. We try to really look at the specific point of interest and then co-create together with all the actors that participate in the project. Now, for us, it's very important that everyone is represented, so universities, service providers, the city departments, but also the civil society, NGOs, and to get really the whole picture. And now in Corona, as I said, we're somehow trying to do it online. It has worked. You will hear from our colleagues from Reykjavik and Maia how the process has been in a bit. So this is just, I won't get in detail, but because this will be presented by them. So at the end, we have this kind of, it's just an example of what solutions can come. So the solutions we created, as I said in the beginning, try to tackle different sectors, the different levels of a solution that it can have. So we go from the politics or the some kind of regulations that have to be introduced, and then technologies that might have to be implemented. So here you can see, like, for example, a citizen participation app for promoting sustainable behavior, or introducing the pay-as-you-throw system for improving waste collection recycling, or a pilot smart grid at university, to promote this energy systems. It's just examples. As I say, you will hear more later. And then we also work with this kind of maps that would allow us also to visually see what kind of connections the different solutions might have, how they could be also a bit brought together, and to visually understand them. And we try to get as concrete as possible in the sense that we try to decide on a specific street or a specific district, or yeah, try to help them to get more closer to implementation. What it comes next in the case of the SPARCS, after we finish this co-creation project, this is it would be the detailed project development. So once you have verified, confirmed, yes, this is a solution that is actually applicable and it's needed for the city, and is confirmed by different departments, by different future users, so to say, then you would go to a more detailed elaboration of them, and then with the different components, then creating a roadmap for implementation. This is something that my colleague Greta from Bable will explain you a bit more in detail, as they are leading this activity. And yeah, I think that was an overview of what we at Fraunhofer do in the first part of the replication strategy. So thank you very much, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, so far I don't see any questions, if I'm correct. Okay, then I think we will first go to, we will give the participants a little bit of time to think about questions for you, Marilisa, and we will first go to Magnus for the Reykjavik experiences. Hello, Magnus.
Hello.
There we go.
Is that looking all right?
All good. Floor is yours.
Thank you. So thank you all very much, and a good morning to everyone. My name is Magnus Ingvi Josefsson, and for the next 10 minutes I will talk about Reykjavik's SPARCS journey and what has been achieved so far. So a little bit about my city. Reykjavik is the most northern capital city in Europe. We have a population of just over 131,000, with 231,000 odd living in the capital region. The city covers 245.8 square kilometers with a population density of 533.5 per square kilometer. In Reykjavik, just under 98% of all citizens live within half a kilometer from public transport, and 96% of our citizens live within 300 meters from a green space. On the image there, on the left, you can see one of our landmarks, the Pearl, which is built on hot water tanks. I will tell you a little bit more about that later. And you can see a lot of build-up going on, and indeed, Reykjavik is undergoing a major transformation with significant investments in infrastructure, not least a major rapid bus public transport system that will be rolled out in the next few years. And for the next 3 years, we will be pouring around 600 million euros into investments, and most of those are investments in to really sort of fuel the green transformation, or even greener transformation of the city. Reykjavik is heated and powered by abundant and cheap energy, which is harvested by the deep drilling and extraction of steam and hot water from the surrounding lava fields. These images show these geothermal energy fields in the vicinity of Reykjavik. They are owned and operated by Reykjavik Energy, our SPARCS partner as well. Reykjavik Energy is a public limited company of which the City of Reykjavik is the principal owner. Energy is harvested by drilling holes in the ground up to 5 kilometers down and extracting hot water that we use then to heat our homes and our many swimming pools. But of course, the water is also used for general domestic and industrial use. It also extracts steam that drives turbines that then produces electricity and that powers Reykjavik, that runs entirely on renewable energy. Let's comment very briefly on the Carbfix project that Reykjavik Energy is involved in. This project involves a process whereby CO2 produced through the extraction process is pumped back into the ground and over time gets turned to stone, so binding the carbon in the Earth's crust. Since 2014, 65 million metric tons of CO2 have been processed in this way. So if you're interested, then you can follow the link on the slide, and I believe the slides will be made available on the SPARCS website. So back to SPARCS then. Last year was fruitful in terms of activities carried out. We created a SPARCS local assembly of experts that will be in post during the lifetime of the project. The board contains cross-disciplinary expertise, environmental and climate scientists, sociologists, data scientists, project managers, transport engineers, and more. And these will equip us with both the tactical and the technical knowledge to optimize the value of SPARCS in the coming years. We did a comprehensive diagnosis of the city, which has produced a useful picture of the state of the art when it comes to climate actions. We carried out interviews with subject matter experts, and we ran smart city training workshops, which are ongoing. And then finally, we conducted city vision workshops, and more of which later. I think very importantly, and it's fair to say that the SPARCS project has created a momentum within the city that really permeates and connects the departments and offices in a common objective to make Reykjavik a cleaner and a greener city by the sea. The overall aim has been to prepare Reykjavik for the actual implementation of SPARCS solutions and to train and educate smart city managers to that end. But also very importantly, we strive to develop a robust knowledge transfer mechanism that manifests in the quadruple helix, where the public sector, the industry, the citizens, and of course the scientists collaborate to solve climate action challenges. We have been working very hard to facilitate these collaborative and knowledge transfer mechanisms of SPARCS, of the quadruple helix, sorry, and SPARCS, of course, has been a great enabler on that journey. And our ultimate goal, of course, in Reykjavik is to make the city carbon neutral by 2040. And we continue to revise our climate action plan to that end, or even earlier. The City Vision workshops involved 3 diverse working groups of internal experts that pondered what Reykjavik should look like in 2050. The vision coalesced around 3 main concepts: carbon neutrality, circular economy, and societal vision. The workshop was very constructive in illustrating challenges and possibilities, and some of the ideas that emerged were within reach already. Others are a bit more far-fetched, but very interesting still. The city diagnosis involved projecting the state of the art when it came to climate action initiatives and planned actions. The activity was quite important in the context of Reykjavik's new green plan, a portfolio of activities that will realize Reykjavik's transformation for the coming years to a sustainable and carbon neutral society. And through this activity, we are evaluating baselines and business cases. We understand much better our requirements and our resources as well, both from human, social, and relational and capital perspectives. And also, we are understanding much better how SPARCS feed into the wider policy spectrum of Reykjavik's overall policies, not just the climate policies. And finally, we are using this activity to tailor SPARCS to local aims and objectives, in effect using SPARCS as a handrail to both improve our understanding of the challenges and also our appreciation of opportunities. We carried out interviews with 24 subject matter experts representing 11 knowledge clusters. And in these, we did a deep dive into operational issues and challenges. And this, of course, will also contribute to a more holistic understanding of the issues. And finally, the Smart City training workshops are designed to prepare and train our managers for the digital transformation of Reykjavik. These workshops will equip our managers with a broad set of skills and understanding that will be useful in the coming years. Other outcomes that SPARCS has produced is a vision of green blocks in Reykjavik city centre, including a vision of a green autonomous mobility corridor and the creation of multimodal mobility hubs in the city centre. There are also efforts underway already to escalate the transition to electric vehicles via the installation of the necessary infrastructure. Again, all these are connected directly to Reykjavik's green plan, particularly as concern energy transformation and mobility. This slide shows the many actions of SPARCS, and Reykjavik was from the outset focused on EV uptake and EV charging strategies. But we are beginning to look at the wider spectrum of SPARCS activities, and there are many great opportunities there to innovate and to escalate energy transformation and climate action and generally. This slide shows how we now in Iceland enjoy a nationwide coverage of EV charging infrastructure. Reykjavik alone has installed 64 charging stations, with additional 84 stations in the process of being installed. But there are many more initiatives underway, public-private partnerships, where EV charging stations are being installed countrywide. In terms of the next steps, then, as Mari-Lise pointed out, then we are now looking into developing the replication strategy further. We of course will be evaluating SPARCS solutions as they emerge from the Lighthouse cities. We are of course working on more detailed planning and market consultation, building public-private partnerships, attracting investments, and developing and detailing our business cases around these investments. We also want to understand better the value proposition of those solutions, and really going through local value, risk, and quality assessments. And of course, importantly, we are aligning SPARCS with other climate action initiatives in Reykjavik, not least Reykjavik's green plan. And then, of course, very importantly, then mobilizing the local quadruple helix of climate action innovators to enable us to realize our climate action goals, or our climate goals. So that's it from Reykjavik. Thank you very much. Happy to take questions.
Thank you, Magnus. I don't see any questions yet. Please don't hesitate to ask any in the chat. We're very open for all questions and discussion. But for now, I think we will go to Maia Municipality, Marta and Luisa. You are still muted, Marta.
Good morning. Thank you all. My name is Marta Moreira. I work for Maia Municipality, and I'm here representing Maia SPARCS team. As Peter told, I will share this presentation with Luisa, our colleague from New R&D, our another SPARCS partner. To begin, some information about Maia. Maia is one of Porto metropolitan area municipalities. Is located in the north region of Portugal. Maia plays an important role among this hinterland due to its centrality and proximity to Porto, mostly because of its major transport infrastructures, which includes the international airport, 3 light metro rail, 2 railroad lines, and is crossed by 3 different highways. And in the last 6 decades, Maia showed some of the most significant values within the dynamics of population, economic growth, and housing growth. Is one of the most industrialized municipalities of the country and became in the past few years one of the most attractive municipalities for living and working. With a resident population of about 130,000 inhabitants, we registered the highest population growth rate in the metropolitan area in the previous decade, and we count more than 15,000 companies. With this context, Maia has proudly embraced SPARCS project, its challenges and objectives, proactively seeking advice, expertise, know-how and assistance from the Lighthouse cities, from the other fellow cities and the other partners in the project. Maia aims at developing a sustainable integrated territory that embeds and promotes the sustainable energy solutions developed in the Lighthouse and Fellow Cities. And during the last 16 months of the project of work, we got to know better our status quo, considering a group of specific key areas. We know that we have particular challenges in comparison with other cities, as we can check in this slide. And as an example, considering the demand for energy, the highest weight is occupied by industry, responsible for about 50% of the emissions, followed by transports and buildings, both with 24%. And this chart illustrates the differences of demand for energy of the other municipalities in Porto Norte region. Maia has been doing already an interesting journey towards sustainability, namely the substantial CO2 reductions from the last decade. And this has given us the know-how and experience to address future reductions. And considering this, Maia is doing efforts in order to raise awareness among the important stakeholders, gathering to the discussion and co-creation phase representatives of a wide spectrum along the work done not only under the on-site strategic week, but also on the City Vision workshop. And until now, besides the City Vision workshop, in the first phase of the on-site strategic week, we do it 7 blocks of interviews with the support of 2 Fraunhofer researchers, including 16 interviewees, 6 of them city representatives, including the city councillor for planning, transport, and ICT, and colleagues from different departments: urban planning, social housing, energy, mobility, environment, and ICT. Also participated on this work the energy providers, public transport operators, entrepreneurs, NGOs and citizens representatives, research and innovation entities, and energy-intensive industries. We are now gathering the information collected from this first phase, planning the second phase, but we already can share some of the ideas collected so far, and we would like to highlight the need to improve RES production, smart lighting, smart grid, virtual power plants, energy communities, regarding mobility, to develop the public transport system to install bike and car sharing systems, to enlarge the pedestrian areas or streets, to develop the EV charging system and multimodality hubs. We also have to assure stakeholder involvement in all sustainability issues and to develop a concept of eco-neighborhood. Also, regarding data, we have to assure policies that guarantee public domain data and an open data platforms. And regarding circular economy, to disseminate green roofs and local power banks of products in industrial areas. And having this in mind, and for the way forward, we would like to ask Luisa Serra from the Portuguese partner New R&D, to whom we are thankful to share this presentation with us, to explain what we are considering doing regarding these replication ideas. Please, Luisa, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Luisa, at the moment you're still muted.
Sorry to all. Thank you a lot, Marta. Thank you, Peter. Maia's implementation plan will address the challenges identified. This will be done based on the solutions that are being implemented in SPARCS Lighthouse Cities of Expo and Leipzig. These solutions will be thoroughly analyzed regarding their impact and their applicability and scalability potential. The solutions from the Lighthouse Cities were aggregated in 5 groups. Can we move to the next slide? Thank you. The positive energy blocks, the electrical mobility, new economy, urban innovation ecosystem, and ICT. These were the main solutions that came out from the Lighthouse Cities. And how are we doing the evaluation of the replication potential in Maia? The evaluation of the solutions replication potential is done in terms of impact, scalability, and replicability. To do so, we have split the analysis in an evaluation that will address first, stakeholders' experience towards the technologies, and second, the technical prerequisites that enables them. The first phase is already represented on the graph. The red dots represent the impact of the solution per se, individually, without a context. The blue dots represent the Maia's potential. This is the preliminary approach, so it's the stakeholder experience towards the technology. The yellow dots represent the impact of the solution in the specific Maia territory. That is, if the solutions have the technical viability, the technical conditions, for example, if it's possible to as they have done in Reykjavik, they have lots of geothermal. Is it possible to do it in Maia or not? There is a potential, a physical potential, and in this case there isn't. And also the social, regulatory, and economical acceptance to be implemented in the specific city. So from the graph, we have examples of interesting solutions. You can see that the yellow points placed at the outer circle of the graph, the PV, smart local sustainable business, ICT predictive models for buildings are the solutions that in this and stakeholder experience towards technology already seems to be most interesting. What we will do now is that the next steps will include more impact evaluation and the integration of technical prerequisites. Namely, in this previous phase, we have addressed the stakeholders' experience towards technology. So all stakeholders related with the territory, not only the municipal employees, but also the energy companies, the mobility companies, the citizens associations, they all have put the information about how they see the viability of these solutions. And what we are not going to do now in the second phase is to do a technical viability analysis of each one. And in the end, what we will have is that we will have an integration of both these perspectives, and this will pave the way for an effective replication at Maia, but also a good replication in all potential European cities. So this is what we have developed for Maia. Thanks a lot to all attendees, to the colleagues of Lighthouse and Fellow Cities, and especially to Maia, to Marta and Maia's municipality, who have contributing to this amazing project.
Thank you very much, Luisa and Marta. There has been quite some activity on the questions at the moment. And the first question, I think, refers to all three of you. As mentioned at the start of the webinar, citizen engagement is an important part of these replication efforts. How is the citizen engagement fit into your efforts so far? What are your thoughts on how to best ensure citizen engagement efforts so that they're not merely demonstrative, but actually engage and are a representative participation? Who would like to answer that first? Marta, maybe?
We have to assure that we don't break their confidence on the process. We have to assure that they are always with us during all the process, and I think that that shouldn't be done is to break their confidence. It's for us, and considering our experience, is the best thing to do, to maintain them with us always.
Can I compliment Marta's?
Of course.
I'm not from the municipality, so we are the technical partners, so we are not biased. And what I've seen in Maia is a wonderful journey. So when we got there with SPARCS, they already were doing this kind of work, a very embedded community work with all stakeholders, and this was done for the territory planning, and this has been done for some years now. I think 2 or 3 or more. I don't know, Marta.
3, more or less. It started with the master plan revising work.
So
yes.
They have an ongoing relationship, and the amazing thing is that their stakeholders, not only the local people, but the business owners, the people who work in all kind of institutions, who live there, who pass through there, they are all engaged because they are used to being heard. And this is very interesting in current days, because people have the urge and the need to being heard. What we didn't have previously was that institutions, they didn't have the good channels to channelize this information and to be bidirectional. And all these grassroots movements that are appearing, they can be canalized to things very, very interesting. And I've seen this. We have done a virtual session, a 2 days hard working and very interesting session, in which I thought that it wouldn't go so well because people are on their lives, they are focused on other things. This PC virtual world is slightly, at least it's not nice, it's not empathic, but they participated with such an energy and a willingness to co-create and co-deliver and to make their stand in a very positive way. So what we should be building here is a long-lasting relationships with all the players. That really works out a lot, from schools, from local business, from people who live there. The questions that they popped out to us were really amazing. And I have been only once physically in Maia, but I feel, and I'm 300 kilometers from them, that I really got to know the territory, and this is very important. Sorry to pop in.
Oh, good, Luisa. Thank you very much. Magnus, do you have anything to add there?
Yes, thank you. Well, citizen engagement has been part of the really fabric of government and governance in Reykjavik for quite some time, and I suppose the Better Reykjavik project is the best known example of that. But there are many other initiatives, and as moving forward, then we will be having consultations with citizens on various activities coming out of SPARCS, but also coming out of Reykjavik's Green Plan and other climate actions. I guess also, just very quickly, I wanted to emphasize the importance of fostering that relationship that you see sort of represented in the quadruple helix, where you get these key stakeholders coming together: the industry, the scientists, the public sector, and of course, very importantly, citizens. And that is an ongoing task. We need to really, nurture these relationships with all those stakeholders to really make, for these climate actions to have the greatest impact and potential. Thank you.
No sound, Peter.
You're muted.
Exactly. Another question also to all of you regarding the COVID times. So we're facing limitations for corporations within cities and internationally. Of course, we haven't been traveling to each other for quite a while now. We need to respond to challenges and adapt ourselves to a new normal. Do you have any suggestions of COVID impact on the City Lab methodology? So I think, Maria-Lisa, it will be good to have you here. For instance, building a city profile, indicators, benchmark information, etc. How can we make that kind of COVID proof? And in our city, we need to be very flexible in our planning, taking COVID and other risks into consideration. Does roadmaps need to be flexible too? Do you have any thoughts about how to adopt planning and implementation of actions within these new normal?
Well, I think if I may kick off, then I think COVID has illustrated the importance of public sector policy and decision making. So one of the past investments in Reykjavik was an investment in a fiber optic broadband, which is ubiquitous everywhere in the city. So that means that really that the government functions more or less as normal, even though people have been working from home. And so it's more or less sort of business as usual. So it just illustrates the importance of thinking ahead. And these past decisions have really contributed to the resilience of our city. In terms of the more social aspect of it, then we are of course a Nordic country, so we are socially distant anyway. So I guess it's the weather is not always that nice, so we stay indoors anyway. But I think my point would be that projects like SPARCS and this collaboration, this vision of the future is really important to increasing the resilience of the public sector in general and of society, of course, in particular. Thank you.
Maria-Lisa?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so of course, I mean, for us in the beginning, it was a challenge because since we've been implemented this type of laboratories in 2011, we've always been able to go to the cities and do this co-creation sessions live and be in touch with all the partners that bring people together. So but we decided to give it a try, and I think it can be confirmed by these cities. I mean, what they presented and what you heard, that it worked out very well also online. So we were able to do the interviews, I think, pretty good, and the results were as good as if we were there, so to say. So I think nowadays, as Magnus say, when the internet connection is good and you have the cameras and you have this opportunity to connect as well in a certain way, it allows us to do the work in a very, I would say, efficient way. So the results are pretty satisfying, I would say. We have a bit more of a challenge with what we plan is in this innovation workshop, where at the end we really want to have, normally it's more than 30 participants together discussing in different tables in different sectors at the same time. So for that, we are thinking more of using, and I know from other colleagues that they're using tools like Miro, and there's different chat rooms, and so So I mean, now it's the time to innovate and to adapt. And I know that it could be a bit more challenging, but so far the results have been pretty good. So I would encourage to really try it. No, you could be surprised with how it could work at the end. So what we did is to develop kind of a guideline for the session before, so that the participants could read it in advance, know what to expect, know how the session would be, and then it allows to save also some time, no? And they could prepare themselves as well. Where we will be having a bit more difficulties is where the cities where English is like a problem. So that we have with Lviv and Kifissia, that we don't speak the local language, and they don't. It's hard to find representatives that are fluent in English there. We are trying to see the way to do it with a translator in between, but that might be a bit more difficult, and then we will have to figure a plan B. But in principle, it is possible, no? And in our experience, it has not necessarily stopped the process of replication.
Thank you. Just to add there that we have started with Lviv, and it is going quite all right so far, as they also speak quite a lot of German.
Kladno, sorry.
Okay, then there's two more questions very focused on Reykjavik. First one, and I would refer to the website to contact Reykjavik directly, because the question is about, could we have more information about your experience in using fiber optics to enable the city communication? So I'll leave that for now. I don't think that we're going to answer that at the moment, Magnus, but I would refer the questioner to go to our website and contact us there, and then we can refer to you to other city entrances there. And another question to Magnus was, can you talk a bit more about the smart city workshops that Reykjavik is organizing? So how frequent are they, and what are the contents?
You mean the smart city training workshops? Is that what's being? Yeah.
If that is so, then we probably refer to the next. It doesn't say here in the question.
Or is it the Future Visions workshop?
I think so. Yes.
The Future Visions workshop. Yeah. Okay. So the Future Visions workshops assembled a group of subject matter experts, and they were drawn from within the city. And they were people that have expertise, departmental expertise. So what they produced was a very interesting perspective of, obviously the challenges that these people that are working hands-on with the issues are experiencing, and also what they would like to do, sort of in the best of all possible worlds. Then what would they like to see happen? And the focus was on, as I said in the talk, was on it sort of coalesced around carbon neutrality, circular economy, and then the societal vision. And of course, it's in some sense, what you get out of that is an sort of an utopic vision of where we would like to be in terms of education, and in terms of innovation, and in terms of how we approach waste, and how we process waste, and so on and so forth. So a lot of it was technologically driven. So the way that we could use technologies to, for instance, deliver medicines by drone, and how we could improve services by this sort of technologically enabled and this sort of integration of the social technical system, and particularly with relation to services. So it really did produce something that was of great interest, and lots of things to look into. And of course, some of it could flow from SPARCS, but some of it could also be used in the way that we are looking at other opportunities. For instance, we are looking forward to the new European Research and Innovation Program, Horizon Europe, then there may be many opportunities there to sort of instantiate some of the ideas, for instance, in proposals. So that was very interesting. I'm not sure if I'm answering the question. So like I said in the, sorry?
I think it's all right for now. Other questions were regarding the training program, but I think that is for Bable. Bable will talk about the training program in the next part. So I think that was very very good and full of information so far. I think we will go to a 10-minute break, and then afterwards we will have Bable talk about, for instance, the training program. So then there's a lot more information there. And we will see you after the break in 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ilya, if you can give me my screen. So I hope that everyone has got a coffee, tea, something fresh, and maybe a quick pit stop, and then we can continue with the webinar. Gretel, are you there? And can you take over the screen?
Here I am,
So
yes. One moment until I start sharing.
And just a reminder that the question part is still open, so feel free to share any questions to Gretel and also to the cities in the chat, and we will make sure that we can discuss them afterwards. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So just checking, you can see my screen, right?
Yes, perfectly.
Perfect. So thank you and hello to everyone. Thanks for returning from the coffee break, and thanks for joining us today. My name is Gretel Scherch, and today I would like to talk about the SPARCS replication. So far we have seen different pieces, different elements and perspectives into the replication. So we have seen the experiences of Maia in this path, the experience of Reykjavik, and the same way the role of Fraunhofer and the city labs in making the replication possible. And now I would like to give you the bigger picture of how we are doing this replication, and how we are conducting this replication process in SPARCS. Bear with me because I will try to be as quick as possible with this presentation. Then we will have a short activity, nothing too crazy, but just to get the interaction ongoing, and then go back a bit to the Q&As. So quickly about myself. So I work for Bable, which is a spin-off of the Fraunhofer Institute. Myself, I work mostly on data governance, and stakeholder engagement, and governance in general aspects, as well as on smart city solutions. At Bable, our main goal is to really constantly drive the change for a better urban life. And what we try to do is to do it as the way simplifying urban innovation and also facilitating smart city implementations. And we try to do that through our exchange platform, the automated services that we have embedded in it, and as well as some consultancy and training services. And ultimately, what we aim to do is to empower the cities, companies, and other key players across Europe to really solve the most pressing challenges, urban challenges, and achieve the most ambitious goals that cities have. And just a summary, and this is something you will also see in our work in SPARCS, we do this through 5 core areas, and that has to do with our smart city platform. I will talk about a bit later on, but we really try to connect cities, companies, and experts to share knowledge and opportunities, and to have access to a comprehensive database of solutions and use cases. On parallel, we also offer a toolbox where there are automated tools that support cities into the ideation, evaluation, implementation of smart city projects. We also offer consultancy services and smart city training that really can skill up people working in cities and companies into the smart city field and energy as well. And recently we have been working on a smart city certificate, which will be the first smart city ready certification scheme for vendors and cities. But this is just to give you an overview of who we are and what we do. So just to give you a bit more of background, how we started when we started to think about the replication in the SPARCS context, we started discussing what the challenges for the cities were, and where were the areas where they found the most pressing issues, and we try to address those through the replication process. So in terms of, for example, city energy infrastructure, so we found some challenges across the cities in terms of the renewable energy and electric vehicles integration, some inefficient systems, and some also monodirectional infrastructure in the building sector. Some, of course, we wanted to work towards more efficient energy systems and leave behind passive users and the limited energy flexibility. And the same goes into the integration. So we really pay attention to the digitalization of services in addressing the digital gap. So we really want to make sure that all these areas and all these challenges are covered also for the mobility sector, the public recognition, the economy, and the environmental aspects. So when we address the implementation process and the solutions that the cities will work on to make sure that they achieve their goals in terms of energy and ultimately becoming carbon neutral, that we really pay attention to all these elements and we make sure that the transition is as successful as possible. So the replication is, we address it as a puzzle. So it has several elements, different areas that we cover along the way to make sure that the replication is, as I said, very successful, and it really leaves no one behind. So we make sure that all cities are capable to implement these solutions, and that those solutions are the best they could take to address their challenges. So I will talk about all these 6 pieces in detail. So one of it is the use cases, which are implementation stories, the solutions, which are like more aggregated information, the replication strategy, that it's what Fraunhofer is working on, and you have already seen more in detail from Maria Lisa's presentation, our training, the project development process, and finally joint procurement. So I will address all these pieces, and I will also give you an idea of why these are relevant pieces to make sure that replication happens in a productive and successful way. So as I said, we are collecting use cases, which are implementation stories. So basically what the Lighthouse cities are doing. And they contain information about the technologies and approaches used, the stakeholders involved. So if there was someone from the utilities, private companies, the cities and how they were engaged. They also have information about the financial details. How was this paid? If the cities are getting funding from the EU, how much of that did fund that solution or that specific project, and how much the city paid for it, or if there were private companies involved, how much they paid for it. So we really want to give all the information necessary to replicate these solutions. And ultimately, they also have insights that they have been gained through the implementation, lessons learned, something they realize along the planning process or the implementation process. And the reason why we collect use cases about each of the implementations in the Lighthouse cities is to really inspire the action in the fellow cities and inform them about the implementation experiences. So it's really to make sure that knowledge transfer happens all along the way across the project. And this is of course not a one-step process, so it's a recurring process, an iterative process where we collect different information. And the current, so these implementation stories, they are collected in a template which we have standardized, and we also have contributed to develop a standard. So this is something that we have been working through the past years, also starting a triangular project, if you're aware of some other past Horizon 2020 projects, and we have now enhanced for SPARCS. And this will also, of course, build on the work we have done. We have already a database of use cases on our platform, and the SPARCS use cases will also be available once they are ready on the platform for everybody to learn about. So not only the fellow cities for our project, but also making sure that we disseminate these experiences and that they can reach all the corners from Europe. The second piece I want to talk about is the solutions. So solutions are, in a way, so they are expert curated, neutral solutions that serve as a blueprint for project development and tender preparation. The idea is that we go from the very particular aspects and information that a use case has into a more general and overarching level. And they include information about the benefits that this solution could provide a city, also the functionalities, and I will explain this in detail because they are quite important for replication. The business model, so they have information about cost savings and value creation, driving factors, basically any supporting elements that make this solution successful or make the solution happen in certain contexts. So that could be around some initiatives or policies that cities have implemented, some available funding and so on, legal requirements, and of course related use cases. So this is at the aggregating level, and then we still have the individual experiences and examples from cities. Why we are doing this. So the idea is that we can provide neutral information packages that can help cities implement and replicate these solutions. And I will show you now how solutions, besides providing the information necessary for the cities to replicate them, how the functionality works and what helps them achieve. So if we go into the example of building energy management system, let's say one of the cities wants to implement this, and they want to, like, some of the goals they have is to improve energy usage efficiency and reducing energy bills. They would then go with a building energy management system. They will implement that, and what we try to distinguish is these two aspects that you can see now in purple and pink or orange. And basically this type of system, so the building energy management system, has to provide certain functionalities to be called that way. So it definitely needs to monitor building performance and manage energy demand. And that's a must. That's how something that a building energy management system should provide. But in addition, there could be situations, contexts, or projects where cities may want to achieve some additional benefits, like shaving the peak energy demand or increasing share of renewables. So they may add some additional functionalities to the existing energy management system that could help them achieve those benefits. So they may choose to manage energy generation, control appliances remotely, manage energy storage, or predict energy consumption. But these add-ons, cities do not have to choose them all. They could choose a few or none of them. They definitely need to go for the core functionalities of the system to make sure that they are replicating that solution, but they could choose according to their needs any of the add-ons that are available in the market. And that information is provided in the solution, so cities can realize what's possible, what needs to be done, and what other alternatives they have to really adapt the solutions and make the most of the solutions for their local context. So just to give you an idea of how this works, so we go back to the use cases. So I just wanted to provide you 3 use cases. These are not yet from the SPARCS consortium because we are still a year old, so those use cases will be coming in the next year. But just to give you an idea, so there could be, depending on the demands of the city and the needs they have and the targets they want to reach, they may apply to the different functionalities. So as you can see on the screen, they definitely have to provide with a building energy management system the 2 basic core functionalities. So monitor building performance and monitoring energy demand. But depending on each of the site's characteristics, or as I said, the needs of the city, they may have, or they may add additional functionalities. So let's say in this example from Barcelona, they wanted to have an energy management system capable of optimizing consumption and forecasting the future building energy consumption. And they also had on-site generation with photovoltaic panels. So they integrated that in the building energy management system. But if you go to the second case with Eindhoven in this former Philips industrial complex, what they did is, of course, have the core functionalities, as I mentioned in all the other cases, but they also could control the appliances remotely and also predict energy consumption, which was not the case of Barcelona because they had different needs. So with these solutions and the information we are providing in these neutral packages is to really give the cities all the information they would need to understand what a building energy management system is and how they can tailor those to their local needs. The next piece is the replication strategy that Maria-Lisa has explained in detail, so I don't need to go into that. But basically, we are analyzing the current status of the cities and suggesting potential projects they could implement to make sure they improve their targets and they reach their goals. The fourth piece is the smart city and urban energy training. So basically, we have developed a smart city and urban energy project, or a training, sorry, that addresses the needs of the city. So we have consulted them to really understand what they wanted to learn about. What were those areas where their city officials were lacking most experience or knowledge, and we put all this together into 16 modules that we have already developed. And so far we have already trained these 30 city officials from the 7 SPARCS cities into the smart city module. So we have thought about this smart city as an urban development approach, the stakeholders, so the role of stakeholders, partnerships, the role of policies, financing and procurement, open systems, so really the role of open data, how we make sure of interoperability is guaranteed along the way, data privacy, living lives in co-creation, and finally digital planning. And now we are entering the second phase of the training, where we will explore energy in more detail, where we will have 8 additional modules on positive energy districts, energy regulations, sustainable energy and climate action plans, generation and storage, energy efficient buildings, and so on and so forth. So there are a few more that are upcoming, and really what we aim to do is to skill the cities with technical and practical knowledge and with the tools that will help them address their local challenges and plans. And this is not just one-way teaching, so we introduce some of the concept theories and practices, and then we have discussions. We work together to really make sure and make the most out of this training. And okay, I went too far with the presentation. I think one point more around the training is that we also have city visits. We do that because we want to make sure that it's not only us or a couple of colleagues from Fraunhofer teaching in this training, but we also get experiences from other cities in Europe that have also gained experience in Horizon 2020 projects. And due to COVID, of course, this is happening virtually, but we will be soon visiting virtually Stockholm, Cologne, and Vienna to really gain insights of their energy projects, how they have done all the way, and any other lessons learned they may have to share with the cities. The fifth piece is the project development. So once the cities have done this replication strategy, where they have pointed to several projects they would like to implement to really reach their goals to become carbon neutral cities, we will go through a process. We will accompany these cities to a process where we will scope the solution that will be implemented, and we will go again through that functionality we discussed before. So really going into what system or solution or methodology they want to implement, and really tailoring down that to the local needs. If needed, we will also go into a market consultation to really get to know in some insights from the market, whether that solution is the best one, what's available, what needs to be taken into consideration for the tendering process. Also, we will, the next step will be the detailed planning and the feasibility evaluations that will need to take place, and for later on going into the investment, making sure that the budget is available for implementing the solution, and finally into the implementation stage. And why we're doing this is to really tailor the energy and mobility solutions to the needs of the cities, and supporting them from the scoping stage until the implementation. And finally, I think this is a highlight also from the SPARCS project, which is the joint procurement task we have in front of us. So what we want to do is to develop a reference model for a joint procurement process and to pilot the process during the project. The reason we want to do this is to aggregate demand and benefit from economies of scale and influence the market. So the idea would be that, and I will just give you an example because has not taken yet place. But let's imagine that Espoo, Reykjavik, and Maia would like to procure a building energy management system. So they will come together, analyze their needs and their goals, what they want to achieve through this building energy management system, and they will look at the different functionalities of this system to really see what they need to implement in their local environment. So after this assessment, they will go and choose the different functionalities that they will need in this specific setup. They would like to implement this solution. So let's say Espoo, we need the core functionalities, but also control appliances remotely. So this is the orange icon. And in the case of Reykjavik, it could be that they need the same functionalities, but on top of that, they would like to manage energy generation in case they are also producing energy locally. And the same goes with Maia, that they will adapt the local needs and the request for the additional functionalities of the solution. So with this idea, really breaking down the solutions on what's needed for each of the cities, they will come together and tender these demands together to make sure that they could also get, for example, a better price in the market because they're procuring together, and also in a way influencing the market, showing the market what are the needs of the cities at a bigger scale. And this is a process we will be piloting, and I think it's quite unique because though there have been some experiences in the field of joint cross-border procurement, I think it's very unique in the sense of the cities that are coming together and the different solutions in the area of energy and mobility that would be procured. And ultimately, the idea is that we really drive the change for more carbon neutral cities and make sure that the innovative solutions not only stay in lighthouse cities, but also reach all the corners of Europe. So really making sure that the replication process leaves no one behind, developing capacities, the company like going along the process with them, and developing different elements that would help them really get to the goals they have set for SPARCS and also for their cities. So that's it as presentation from my side. Thanks for all for paying attention, and if you would like to contact me afterwards, you have my email there. But now, as I promised, we will have now a bit of an activity. So I will share my other screen. Just 1 second. I will also give you a second for breathing and not hearing me all the time. Yes. So I hope you are familiar with Slido. If you are not, please go to slido.com or sli.do, so sli.do, and I will show you the code you will have to enter. I'm not sure if Ilya, we could also share in the chat the link to Slido in case someone did not follow that. And for those of you who are there, please add the code 10767. So I hope you are getting there, getting the code and getting into the Slido. So basically, for those of you who don't know, Slido is just a way of sharing with you some questions and getting some immediate feedback from your side, so we can immediately see your inputs. So first of all, I would like to hear from your side. So you may have some specific challenges that you are experiencing with trying to implement positive energy districts or solutions that align into a positive energy district. I see now, and I think now you can also see my screen, so there are quite some answers coming up. So I think costs seem to be a big a big element into the implementation and the main challenges around the implementation of PEDs, technical context, dimension, integration, the complexity, the boundaries of a PED. So are we talking about what's a district and what are the limits of that district? I think that's something we are also discussing in SPARCS, and we'll happily also follow up with you if you want to give more details afterwards in the Q&A. Lack of best practices, yes. I hope that also through the use cases and once we start sharing that information, not only in SPARCS, but outside the project, we could also get good examples on how to do it, how to implement this. I see you're very active, and I really hope we can address these challenges, because I see a core here with the cost, the financing, economic considerations, the complexity. So really making sure that all solutions fit together, that all the relevant stakeholders are addressed and engaged. So I think it's a long way. We have some challenges ahead, and I hope through SPARCS and also through the cooperation between different projects, we can make sure that we address most of these challenges to make the implementation of positive energy districts as successful as we can. All right, I think we got quite some inputs. Thanks a lot, but stay with me because we have a few more questions. And I think this is quite useful, not only for us, but for yourself if you're working in this field. So now I would like to ask you a question into the procurement element I was talking about. So, and please answer this, especially if you work for a city, because I think that will give us a better understanding. But if you work for a city, how likely is it that your city would participate in a public procurement process? So 1 would be extremely unlikely, 2 unlikely, 3 likely, and 4 extremely likely. This is just for us to get an idea of if we go into a joint procurement process, if there are other cities in the field that would like to participate, and also if you face any barriers for doing such a thing. And I have a follow-up question for that. So just to get an idea here, whether there will be interest from other cities, not only SPARCS consortium, but also from outside, who would be interested in a joint procurement process. All right, I think we have a good number of answers and it's quite positive to see that there will be interest from other cities to participate in joint procurement process. So thanks for that. Now it comes a follow-up question. So if you answer likely or extremely likely that your city will participate in a joint procurement process, what would be important for you in this process? So anything that has to do maybe with regulations, addressing your procurement offices, or anything else that has to do with developing an agile process that can help you engage with the other cities. So anything that comes to your mind that you know it's important for your city to participate in such a process, please share with us. And this is an open question, so you can just make sure that you share with us as open as you can. Yes, so I think legal aspects following procurement regulations is a key in this joint procurement process. It's a matter that we will definitely address throughout the way, and making sure that we follow all regulations and do not get stuck into that for making this process available or enabling this process. The clarity and openness, yes, the business case, absolutely, and the ease of use by end users, absolutely. So I think those are quite good inputs for us that we will keep in mind when working on this joint procurement, also to making sure that what we develop in SPARCS do not only help the SPARCS cities, but also can help other European cities, and making sure that we can develop a tool that could be used in the future. So ultimately, our goal is not just to develop things that are useful for one specific project, but that we can create impact across Europe. So thanks a lot for those inputs. I have one follow-up, more questions on the procurement, and two more after that. So again, if you answer that your city likely or extremely likely will participate in a joint procurement process, which technologies would you be interested to procure? So please be as specific as you can here. If it goes more into the energy sector, or you want to, specify more if it's any systems like building energy management system or EV charging systems, the electrification of fleets for the city. So I'm just giving you some ideas, but please be specific and consider the needs of your city. What's your city looking for, and the areas where your city will be most flexible to procure jointly with other cities. All right, so I see quite some similar aspects. So ICT, IT systems, city platforms, EV charging in the area of mobility, e-mobility, again, the building energy management system, so also energy solutions. I think someone pressed enter too quick, or I'm not aware of an S solution, but fun fact. All right, but I think there is quite a trend, right? So we have three main areas where we see your interest into the joint procurement of smart city and energy solutions. All right, I'll stop there. And one last question. So in the quest to create on this pathway to create carbon neutral cities, what are the topics or thematic areas that your organization lacks most knowledge or experience? And again, here I want to bring back everyone who is in the call, who was participating in the poll. So you don't need to be from a city if you're working for a company or any other sector. Just please share with us what are those areas, those thematic areas where your organization is lacking most experience or knowledge that you would like to learn more about, so we can make sure that we put this knowledge into the practice, and also share these insights from the SPARCS project and into the replication as well. So I think financing is the start of the day, and one very challenging aspect. That's something we have discussed with the cities several times, also in the training, how to make sure that we also tap into smart ways of financing our projects, more innovative ways of financing, just to make sure that money is not an obstacle to implement these solutions, making sure that the transition is not left behind just because we did not get the money or the funding for it. So that's something we have discussed, and maybe if there's interest, we could expand it at a different stage. User behavior, shared economy, citizen engagement, innovation, self-consumption, ICT, energy management, yes, shared mobility, shared e-mobility, project management. I think that can also be a challenge when you are addressing positive energy districts and driving a transition at such a big scale, that you really need to make sure that all participants, all stakeholders in the city are available and there, and also agree with the different elements that the cities wants to address to make sure that these changes are possible. Okay, I think I've taken enough time from all of you, and Peter, if you want to also continue from here. Thanks all for sharing your insights on Slido. That I think that has been quite a good insight from our side as well.
Thank you, Gretel, and I think as well this was very good input. I will now start sharing my screen. I don't see any questions for you at the moment, Gretel. If at the end of this last part, if there is anything, I will come back to you. But for now, we'll go to the last part, the webinars and workshops. So within SPARCS, we have established some forms of communication to exchange knowledge. And one of the things that the cities showed us was that there's a need for continuous communication between the different cities, not only from the Lighthouse cities to the fellow cities, but just an interactive learning from each other. So that's why we've set up this city forum. And it's an internal kind of intimate setting for detailed knowledge exchange. We already had a city forum on new forms of public participation, citizen engagement, exchanging how different cities do these kind of things, and really getting a more detailed discussion on these topics. Another topic was the PED definition. So what is a positive energy district? How do we define a positive energy district within the SPARCS project? And upcoming are city forums on financing process of smart city solutions and the exchange of the City Lab experiences from the different cities, because also from that a lot of the other cities can learn, okay, what did Lviv come up with, what kind of project outlines have been the result of the City Lab in Maia. So that's an exchange that is coming. Of course, the knowledge that we gain from that, like I said, the city forum itself is an internal process, but the knowledge that we gain from it, we will also try to disseminate. Then we've got the workshops where we want to show the different solutions in the Lighthouse cities, visiting the SPARCS actions in Leipzig and Espoo, presenting not only what has come out of it and the technique, but also what was the process to getting there. Because now, of course, we can talk a lot about that process, but it's also very good to reflect on it at the end with the other cities and see how we can learn from that. And what is the replication potential, of course. And then lastly, we've got the webinars like this one, externally focused and work package orientated. So and also very much with the cities, like today with Reykjavik and Maia, we really try to present also the cities experiences. And lastly, I will give you an outlook of the coming webinar. So first we'll have the business models and financing mechanisms in April 2021, the KPIs for replication around June, and the city visions, as were mentioned before, which will be presented in September 2021. So this has been the webinar. I see that there are no questions. So then for the last time, I want to direct you to our website and to the social media channels. If there's any questions for us, the speakers, there's enough contact points open, and the questions will be redirected to the right person. If you want to stay updated, have a look at the SPARCS website or the social media channels. And with that, I want to thank all the speakers for their involvement and their very grand input, and thank Gobacom for organizing. That was it for now. Thank you very much and have a good afternoon.